Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I want to remind everybody I appreciate all of your support. So please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal link down below for anybody that wants to share some love. All is appreciated. And of course, the StreamYard link is there in case anybody wants to join the panel. Tonight, we're going to be talking about that May-trix insanity. The weather's getting nicer and more people coming out and protesting and all kinds of things like that. Got a lot more Karens out in the eye in the public. We're done with the supposed pandemic, so a lot more people are feeling more free to be themselves. So we're going to talk about the one-thinkable source, the selfishness and the expansion of that selfishness unto others as we go around accusing each other of false bullshit because we get our feelers hurt. That's basically the way I see it, folks. It's time to grow up and start thinking about each other as higher beings and quit being so stupid in your self-centeredness and know that the one source that we all come from is truly what makes us both love and fear each other. We both know each other's compassion and the destitute we can come to that would make us do egregious acts against each other, or even just the hurt feelers that will bring us to those actions. So let's take a dive into it. We're going to take a look at the first one tonight is those actions and how far we go and thinking beyond the ordinary and specific scenarios being portrayed and seeing things that may or may not be there to help provide for explanations, this and that. This was an interesting case that I saw come up here not too long ago in Las Vegas. So the Las Vegas man accused of killing neighbor after he exposed himself in front of the kids to be released.
The man accused of killing
So they arrested him for killing the guy, and now they're going to release him.
his neighbor is headed out of jail and into a neighborhood on edge. Thanks for staying with us here at 6:30. I'm Heather Mills.
And I'm Denise Valdez. So police say 32-year-old Eddie Moreno shot his neighbor who was allegedly exposing themselves with kids present. But as 8 News Now reporter Ryan Matthews shows us, neighbors say they're concerned about a lot more than that.
No guns, period. You understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because if you happen to have one and they find out about it, your bail will be revoked. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
This is Eddie Moreno agreeing to the conditions of his release. Not even 72 hours after being placed in custody, accused of killing his neighbor. Police say 47-year-old Joe Moreno was the victim. Same last name, but no relation, besides a property line. Eddie told police that's where he fired his gun after Joe exposed his genitals with children present.
He's in our corner always. We're going to be in his corner now that he needs us there.
These men call Eddie family and say they...
So what we've got is already somebody that is evidently active in the community in one sense or another, that some of these neighbors know him for those actions and they're going to support him in those actions. Remember that as this develops as a back plot, at least the way I see some things. And they may or may not be true in my opinion. I'm just posing something that I see.
Help pay part of his $100,000 bail to get him out. The judge also ordered him to stay away from who does still live next door and to not possess firearms on his property.
I defend him because he's a family man, and I know he would do anything to protect his family, just like all of us would.
He's headed back to this neighborhood with neighbors saying they're still on edge, claiming Monday's interaction was not the first act of aggression they've witnessed.
We waited till his picture got released the next day, and we were like, oh, that's him.
This family, who live on the same street as Eddie, asked to conceal their identities.
Calling her the B word, come on, I'll kick.
They say their neighbor has a history of confrontation. These photos shared after an alleged incident from weeks prior where Eddie was speeding in the neighborhood.
Michael yelled, slow down, and he just lost his...
Then reportedly stepping out of his car and verbally fighting those outside, scaring this woman to end the fight.
I don't know if he's going to try and do anything, especially because I maced him. If he really thinks he's the king of the neighborhood and this is his neighborhood, what else is he going to do if he can get out from murder?
The wife and attorney for Eddie declined to comment. Ryan Matthew, 8 News Now.
As of right now, Moreno is awaiting his release from jail. Only 15% of the total bail amount is needed, so friends say they collectively gathered the needed $15,000.
So friends collectively gathered and came up with $15,000, which I kind of find a little light on a charge of somebody dying in one manner or another. However, given the circumstances, you know, that's an emotional standing. So there could be a backset on that, as well as there's an emotional buildup, as we see with past interactions evidently being confrontational. But then again, now we have to discern where is that emotional backstop coming from. Is it coming from the guy that killed the perp? And is that perp's actions, wouldn't that be equivalent to excessive force? I mean, don't we have the same means as the regular police would of coming with lesser lethal authority? I mean, don't we have something called a citizen's arrest? And if it was in front of children and other people, I imagine, I think that would be the first and foremost acceptable means rather than just getting a gun and shooting it. So there comes this aspect that I see that the neighbors are supporting him, but they may be supporting the wrong thing. And this is a king of a neighborhood type thing for a neighborhood watch program that may effectively be seeking out the right intent, but again, going it by the wrong ways and means by being a bigger perpetrator of greater crimes. Again, it goes to that lethal force, you know, equivalent force. I mean, technically, you can't whip your pecker out and flash your pecker back at him as it would be, but there is certainly, like I said, that collective citizens arrest situation. Many other things that we could resort to, including calling the police and having the police arrest them. All kinds of things before we have to go to such extreme measures. That's why it's so important to understand this history that we're going through, becoming Hitler's willing executioners. You know, you no longer even need a Hitler. You just have to be willing to execute. That's a self-centered thing. That's not a collective, objective reality, particularly in this instance. In my opinion, of course.
Welcome to the world's largest invention factory.
A delusion.
Now, the next one I have goes to the Second Amendment. And this is a big issue here today, and I want everybody to pay attention to this one. This is from C.O.W.A.R.D.S, C.O.W.A.R.D.S. And it says, New York judge convicts man over gunsmith hobby and says Second Amendment doesn't exist in her courtroom. So first I want to explain that title. It is not her courtroom. She is entitled to reside on that bench, and the powers so delegated come from the people, first and foremost. So let's
New
take a
York
look.
judge had the audacity to tell an attorney during trial, when he brought up the Second Amendment during his opening statement, mind you, do not bring the Second Amendment into this courtroom. It doesn't exist here. So you can't.
So the judge who took an oath and the officers that arrested him and brought him before the court and all the people involved in serving the papers of the court who get their just powers from the people through that very Constitution of which they took an oath to uphold. And somehow it doesn't apply in this court, in her court. This is narcissistic bullshit. These people do not belong on a bench. I don't care what constitutional issue it is. I don't care if it's a code, rule, regulation, act, edict, ordinance or not. It is not hers. She is not the authority. She is a public servant in a public trust, and she has an obligation as the obligor to the obligee.
Can't argue Second Amendment. This is New York.
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
Ma'am, it's New York, a state in America with a constitution, not Sparta, where you can just Leonidas front kick amendments you don't like out of the Constitution.
This is Sparta!
But this is indeed what a judge in the United States of America said to the attorney of a man who was on trial for building guns in his own home under the Constitution. That man's name is Dexter Taylor.
Yeah, okay. So some time ago.
So we have a gunsmith that makes his own guns. There's no regulation that says you can't. In fact, there is regulation that says you can, and it's for private use. That would be militia.
So I became interested in gunsmithing. Ever since I was a kid, I really, like most kind of red-blooded American kids, I was interested in guns and, tanks and fighter planes and because it was cool, And so, but maybe 3-4 years ago, maybe I became really interested in gunsmithing, and I thought this would be a really cool thing to do, really traditional and really kind of and possibly even leading to a second career. I've been a software developer forever, but I also make stuff, and so anyway, fast forward a bit. I started actually building weapons. I started building firearms. So, I learned from guys like Machine Gun Builder. I said Machine Gun.
Notice he used specific language there, folks. He started building weapons instead of firearms.
Marine gun builder, right, who builds pistols, 80% pistols. It's like I found out that you can actually legally buy a receiver, and you can machine that receiver to completion, and you buy your parts and you put together, and you've got a pistol or a rifle. And once I saw that,
and just another thing too, folks, under federal law, you can buy an upper by itself, and then buy the lower by itself, and neither of them separately are required to be registered. And then you can put them together, but you did not receive a firearm already assembled and required to be registered. You received certain parts and assembled them yourself without needing to be registered. There are many different ways you can do this. You don't have to be a gunsmith to make your own weapons. You can assemble them from different manufacturers even. Just like you can assemble your own car.
I was hooked. I was like,
you just have to know what you're doing. You have to know the process.
This is the coolest thing ever. This is the most cool thing you could possibly do in your machine shop, because I have a machine shop in my basement. And so I make furniture and I make different stuff, and that's a whole other story. But anyway, I started doing that. And there was no subterfuge. It's like I bought them on my credit cards under my name because they were my weapons that I built. And at a certain point, the state of New York took an interest. And in April of 2022, a joint SWAT ATF task force raided my house, like broke down my door and everything. And it was I remember it's like April 6th, was it? Yeah. And I'd gone to bed listening to an audiobook, woke up and I heard voices that were not the audiobook, and then I heard a bang, and then I heard, where are my police, transformer, that kind of sound, and I saw weapon lights flickering under the door of my bedroom. So first thing I did was I said, hello. I thought they had the wrong place, because it never occurred to me that someone quietly sitting at home manufacturing rifles or pistols or whatever would be a problem that New York State was like, we've got to go and get this. It just never occurred to me that anyone would come up in my house like that. Like, I have a clean criminal record.
Unfortunately, the jury in Taylor's case was just as delulu as the judge because they found him guilty, and now he's in jail on Rikers.
And that's, I think, part of the problem is that I think he said, I'll have to go back and listen to it again, but I think he said he was licensed as a gunsmith. And that would be part of the problem, I think, is that contract. And it would, of course, knowing the right details, I'm sure, be unconscionable contract in that equal consideration wasn't given for the privacy. See, that's the thing about contracts, is they're supposed to remain private. So they're making a public issue out of something that's supposed to remain in privacy and go through arbitration to find out if the regulations actually do apply in such a fashion. Letter of the law versus the spirit of the law, or the intent.
Rikers Island.
Rikers Island, New York's massive jail complex, just a few miles from Midtown Manhattan, and scene of a humanitarian crisis.
What are some words you'd use to describe Rikers Island?
Hell. Plain and simple.
How would you describe the conditions at Rikers Island?
The conditions at Rikers Island have been inhumane.
Waiting to be sentenced in the court of the same judge who, during the trial, told Taylor's attorney that the Second Amendment doesn't exist here. That judge is Abena Darka, or however you say her name. I'm just going to call her Abracadabra, since she thinks she can magically eliminate whole constitutional amendments. If you ask me, the person that needs to be in jail is the judge. Imagine a judge.
She wasn't attempting to amend that Second Amendment or change it. She was just simply literally abolishing it. She has no authority to do so, folks. This is so egregious that other people around her don't stand up and dismiss it. That is a cognizable felony under the United States Code.
In a First Amendment case saying, don't bring the First Amendment into this courtroom. It doesn't exist here. People would lose their mind. Yet a judge says these exact words about the Second Amendment and no one says anything. What's truly pathetic and disheartening is that actual criminals in New York treat the legal system like a revolving door.
We're arresting the same people over and over again. We identified 716 people who are responsible for 30% of the shooting incidents last year. And frustratingly, we see many of them get arrested, released, arrested, released.
So Lil Junebug can go out and shoot at his ops and then be back on the streets the next day. But when a 52-year-old software engineer makes guns in his home from legal parts as a hobby, they try to throw him in jail for 10 to 18 years. What's crazy is that on a federal level, making your own gun is legal. People.
Did you hear that? On the federal level, making your own gun is legal. And again, I don't know if he's going to tell you, and I'll have to look it up, but to affirm that. So don't believe me. Don't believe the neighbor. Don't believe the government. For crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. But I'm pretty sure under the federal law, again, that if you make your own gun, you're not required to register it.
People have been making their own guns for hundreds of years. The Gun Control Act of 1968 allows an unlicensed individual, a regular civilian that doesn't hold a federal firearms license or FFL, to make a non-NFA firearm for personal use, but not for sale or distribution.
This goes the same for most any other law. See, if you're not going to use it for sale and distribution, such as moonshine, you're allowed to make your own moonshine for your private use. It goes again to the use, private use. It's a use-of-flux system. They have an imperfect use because in that public domain, it goes that anybody supposedly can use it. In your private domain, it's only you that can use it. They've switched everything up.
Taylor was not selling these guns. For crying out loud, he never even shot them. But when Lil AstroTurf goes and actually shoots someone, they treat him like a fucking folk hero. Hell, they do it on social media. If my black ass makes a video about responsible gun ownership, I get shadow banned. But a group of underage kids waving around Glocks with switches on it, talking about shooting at their ops, viral. And then we wonder why there's so much violence in certain...
You guys understand that? That's that censorship stuff, and they're not supposed to be able to do that either. That goes to the First Amendment, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 in the Constitution, as well as Article 4, Sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. equal protections of the laws, the guarantee, all of it. See, you are a creator, and everything you put out, as long as it's not just a duplication of somebody else, and this is why they have the copyright. This is why I can go ahead and review these videos and avoid that copyright, because I'm putting my own commentary and stuff in here, and so it's my own creation. It's an extension of what was already created, but it's still an extension of that by my own creation. As long as I give credit to the people that are making this stuff.
Communities. You glorify the shit and vilify responsible gun owners. You have more contempt for legal gun owners who are contributing members to society than you do degenerates actually killing people. What kind of message do you think that sends to young people? Be a law-abiding, productive member of society and go to jail, or be a degenerate up and walk the streets with immunity. This is why I say gun control is not about saving lives, it's about control. They need the chaos of violence to justify their continued push for gun control, because they can't sell you gun control if there is no gun violence. So they passively, if not actively, facilitate the gun violence in certain areas, then use those stats to scare suburban housewives into voting for more gun control, and then make an example out of any law-abiding gun owner who dares search their rights under the Second Amendment, which is why this judge had the unmitigated gall to fix her mouth to say, do not bring the Second Amendment into this courtroom. It doesn't exist here. Like, what the f***? That is the language of a tyrant, not a judge, saying
treason and sedition at the greatest level. Again, I agree with him. I don't understand why people aren't up in arms in this. Excuse me? You just said under that Admiralty maritime flag that the Constitution doesn't apply in this room? It's your courtroom? How fucking dare you?
shit like that should have you tried for treason. But that is where we are.
Oh, no. Did he just say it? He just agreed with me. Treason.
In this country, a country where a judge in a state can unilaterally eliminate a constitutional right. Thankfully, we have a legal system where you can appeal your case to higher courts and overturn unconstitutional decisions. But doing this isn't cheap, which is why I put a link to Dexter Taylor's 2A legal fund in the description section of this video. Now, keep in mind, this isn't just about Dexter Taylor. This is about all of our rights under the Second Amendment, because if this case can get to the Supreme Court, not only will this overturn Taylor's conviction, it will set a new legal precedent, thus making it extremely hard for states like New York and judges like Abracadabra, or whatever her name is, from prosecuting law-abiding citizens for exercising their constitutional rights. Guns aren't political. That's why I need your help getting this message to spread on YouTube by clicking the thumbs up button, leaving a...
Absolutely. Go over to Colion Noir. Colion Noir. COLION NOIR. And so, folks, we see the particular situation we're in today, again, is because people are not taking up the education. In order to be able to take up your arms, you have to be able to take up the education. What does Constitution mean in simple terms? A constitution is a set of rules that guides how a country, state, or other political organization works. The Constitution may tell what the branches of the government are, what powers they have, and how they work. It also may state the rights of citizens, and they are the ones that classify with label citizens. Yes. And this goes to your same abilities. You can determine what constitutes yourself. That's the root derivative, constitutes. What constitutes your being? The next one I got.
Probably the most common question that I'm asked as a professor at Hillsdale is, what happened to my country?
It's either is the insanity. This is from We the People. This guy used to be a police officer in a couple different capacities, as well as he was in the military, I guess, and he's gone on and quit the service, and now he does these videos, and he does a great job. We the People University. I've done a review on some of his videos before, and this one here is local police officers are sued. Confusion over plastic doll. Cops show up the wrong address and mistake a doll for a baby. And also, you know, they show up at the wrong address. Not only that, but they show up without a warrant. All kinds of things these people obviously don't comprehend in relations to the order of which they're supposed to do things, that logic, and they flaw the logic right from the start, and that's why they end up in these positions. They don't use logic.
A doll or a dead baby?
Yes. The hair looks real.
Whatever they saw was serious.
They're now discussing through a plain open window whether what they see on the couch, which can't be but maybe 20 feet away, whether it's a real baby or a doll, and they have no sounds from inside. They're going to evidently a domestic or something, I don't know yet, and just knocking on a door, evidently, like the title says, it's a wrong address. So let's take a look.
It's enough to call in backup. Brooklyn Center police officers arrived and forced their way into the side door.
Welcome back to We the People University. My name is Abaya Israel, former police officer and former sheriff's deputy. About maybe a year ago, there was a viewer who made the comment down below in the comment section, and I wish I could find it so I could put it on the screen, but it's been a while. But he said something. He said, Abaya, the videos, they just get dumber and dumber. And of course I laughed, and I knew it was true, but you know, I just didn't realize how after he made that statement, how much of that would just start to show itself. If you guys have been following the channel on a regular basis, the videos have gotten to the point where like you begin to question and ask the question, can they get any more dumb than this? Like, can a police officer do anything that's dumber than what we're watching right now? And every day the answer is yes.
And that's why I keep coming back with these insanity clips. It's more and more. And this is what's showing the importance of learning how to communicate with each other in a more appropriate sense so that we can get along better. This is insanity, folks. And if you continue to be part of it in the insanity, then you will find your own consequences. You will, like I've said many times, people when they're talking are laying their own rope. And those that want to follow along with that dribble will get caught up in it when they hang themselves. They will find they themselves hanged as well.
You may be like, hey, what are you talking about? Let's watch this video. We'll talk at the end of the video. It's a short video. It's a news clip. And you tell me down below in the comment section, how stupid, ridiculously stupid do you have to be to make this type of mistake? Let's check this out.
Plastic baby doll that looked like a real baby in distress is the reason Minneapolis police say they raided a Twin Cities home without a warrant. That's according to a new lawsuit against the officers involved. Investigative reporter Ryan Race has learned it appears police were at the entirely wrong house to begin with.
Yeah, so according to police records, this all happened in March of last year. Minneapolis police say they were investigating a homicide. That led them to a home in Brooklyn Center. And once they arrived, everything went downhill fast. As soon as MPD Sergeant Andrew Schroeder and Mark Sucha arrive at the doorstep of this Brooklyn Center home, Schroeder immediately starts rifling through mail. Sucha walks over and peers through the front window, where something catches his eye.
I think that's it.
Federal offense. Federal postal offense. Search and seizure without authority. Just because you got some call doesn't mean you get to go rifling through people's stuff without a warrant. Particularly the mailbox. That's a federal offense committed on camera.
Doll, but come and take a look. She's even got a Band-Aid on her finger.
This is what they saw. A baby doll. Yes, with a Band-Aid on its finger.
So this is a baby doll. She's laying like that. You know, got her finger up.
Homeowner Yolanda Mays wasn't home at the time, but her 74-year-old uncle was in the basement.
It's either a doll or a dead baby.
Yes. The hair looks real.
Whatever they saw was serious enough to call in backup.
It's either a doll or a dead baby.
Yes. The hair looks real.
Whatever they saw was serious enough to call in backup. Brooklyn Center police officers arrived and forced their way into the side door.
Police department!
Unlike the call that we saw last night where the guy called for backup but didn't wait for backup. This guy here waited for backup.
Brooklyn Center
police! Thank God he didn't have a heart attack.
Mays is now suing all the officers involved for unlawful entry, partly because what happened after officers realized this doll was, in fact, a doll. What happened next?
See, once they realized they made a mistake, instead of admitting the mistake and going to find out what the real issue was with the, where the mistake was and stuff like the address, and being able to go approach the real issue in reality, they wanted to make a new issue without saying that they were at fault by turning around and saying, well, we're going to search anyway. See, that's their mentality. They're going to search, 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 even if they're wrong. Even if they're at the wrong place, doing the wrong thing to the wrong people.
They continued to search my home. They went into the basement. The door was closed, so they had to open the door and go into the basement. No reason, it's quiet.
Did the officers have a search warrant to be here?
No.
To make matters worse, police records show that the MPD officers who came to this house weren't even supposed to be here. They had the wrong house. In one of the police reports we obtained, Sergeant C.O.W.A.R.D.S blames Hennepin County, saying they misread the address. 5 Investigates also found a search warrant showing they had interest in a home down the street. What's your reaction to that?
I'm upset. I feel violated. I feel tons of emotions.
MPD says it does not comment on pending litigation. Schroeder, who has a long history of complaints on the force, apparently went into the garage looking for a drill and screws to fix the door they broke, but he didn't find any.
We all have to be held accountable for our actions, period.
Yolanda told me Brooklyn Center did pay to replace the door, but it took about 3 months for a contractor to come out and do it. She says this lawsuit is for the trauma her family experienced through this ordeal, and as you heard her say, also about accountability.
In the wrong house.
In the wrong house. And we'll see. No one's commenting so far, but we'll see what happens as this plays out.
Ryan Racing.
See, and that's supposed to be part of the remedy when we do these things, folks. We have to recognize the actual issue in the officers that are perpetrating this idiocy and this insanity, and be able to point out that there's a learning curve mishap somewhere, and they need to be educated first and foremost. Even if they lose their job, it still, again, requires that element of education. You can't just punish them without having some kind of further education. Further education is the solution. And again, I believe it should be preemptive. We shouldn't be having these 22, 23, 24-year-old young men policing our society of moms and grandparents that have already lived a life and know a greater moral standing. These young men and women policing today don't have the full base concept of the moral compass that they should have, and they're being indoctrinated through their intellect, lower intellect, as an authority mechanism through the popularity contest. That's what the quotas and everything and all the income base is all about. The more you make, the more popular you are. The more popular you are, the more you make. That's the insanity circle.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So in my book, I tell stories about what I witnessed and encountered while working as a police officer. Stories like police officers who work for our department, the same department I work for, being pulled over for a DUI and then leaving his own police department on a high-speed chase. Yes, he ran away. He took off. So the cops that were chasing him were actually his co-workers. And they caught him, and then he gets his job back. And not only that, he gets a promotion. Stories like that and a whole lot more. They go along with what we just watched. There are so many ridiculously stupid things that you couldn't even imagine. But the worst part is how it's covered up. These things happen on a regular basis, and we sound like broken records saying the same thing over and over and over again. Know your rights, record the police, know your rights. But you never know. It just may save your life. Of course, you want to know your rights, and you always want to record the police, because even with knowing your rights, we're seeing people having their rights violated anyway. But a lot of times video did not capture the incident, and therefore now it's your word against their word. And had this incident, had it not been captured on video, I'm pretty sure some creative story would have came up, and this lady would have no chance at justice whatsoever. This is why.
And that's, again, why I say it's so important to bring back that neighborhood watch program with the technology that we have today that makes it so much more comfortable and convenient to be able to do so. Just by, if you got that device, keep the thing charged up and use that video. If you don't get any good video, you can erase it. You don't have to fill your storage up with unusable video, but you can use it to do video in case something happens.
Why it's vital. Record the police. Wear a body camera. Have a dash cam. Have a Ring doorbell cam. If you guys need body cameras or dash cameras, look down below in the pinned comment section. There's the ones that I use myself. But you have to record the police. It doesn't.
Get them pen cameras so you can put one in your pocket. They're very low discernment. They're very low profile. People wouldn't think of it. Carry one around in your pocket, out in the open, or on your lap, or whatever it is. However you need to use it to make it look reasonable. Of course, don't go around stupid with it. It's a lapel pen, a pocket pen. Wear a shirt with a pocket. Put that pen in it. Start using these devices for your safety, for that creating that private journal.
Doesn't have to be those, whatever camera you decide to get, but record the police, because again, when I first started covering these type of videos, I had no clue that it would just get dumber and dumber, and it was crazy because as I was working inside the department, I saw it, but it was like, okay, it made no sense. Okay, some of these things I'm speaking out on. But
That's like one of those tricks, Gen V, that they'll do as well as they'll have their own personal phones and they'll start playing copyrighted music. So that while you're trying to record, that copyrighted music will end up on your recording. Whereas their videos, there's specific videos that aren't copyright because they're for evidence rather than commercial purposes. So they get to record the copyrighted material in gathering evidence. So they'll play it on their side and ruin our videos as auditors or freelancers, whatever you want to call it, private journalists, that is underhanded, of course. But that's the thing about learning this technology and how to avoid those kinds of things. So again, it's not a matter of being up in their face, but doing it as a general practice so that they know they are being recorded at every minute by many more cameras than they have. Big Brother has all these cameras out, but I guarantee you there's a greater populace that has cell phones and other devices with cameras on them that they can use, again, like I said, of creating a greater supervisory net over Big Brother than Big Brother has that supervisory net over us. Learn how the technology works and use it.
But I just didn't, I don't know, being outside, looking back in, wow, it's completely different, Thankful that I never traveled down a lot of these roads. Guys, make sure you know your rights. Record the police. I just want to share this short clip with you because I found it to be strangely ridiculous how someone could break into someone's home over a baby doll with a Band-Aid on its finger. And how that's not breaking and entering or whatever, I don't know. This is ridiculous. Record the police, know your rights. With that being said, We the People University, signing off. Get your copy.
So yeah, go over to We the People University and check him out. Abaya Israel, great guy. And the next one, we're going to get into some shorts now. And this goes to the stewardship of man for creatures. And again, the opposing dynamic that why don't we nurture our fellow man the same way? Somehow it seems like when we nurture these animals and we develop that connection, they stay in communication with us. So I've got a couple of them here, I think. And it's about the different way that these bonds are made and created and conveyed through some kind of communication or language or something, whether it be body language or the spiritual bonding that we have with these creatures, just like they would have a spiritual bonding with their own parents that brought them into the world. This one happens to be abandoned. I used to, and still do if I ever get the opportunity, it's just been a few years, to rescue any animal out there. That's in fact how we got Eddie, our big boxer pit mix. It's a manner of ministering the word to all creatures. And when we find the delicacies in life to be more than just our own great adaptation and ideologies of thought and communication, to the simplicities of life and just the basic nurturing in nature, I think this is the true spirituality of man, rather than this personality that we've developed in this popularity contest.
Picture about the size of my thumb on the driveway, and I couldn't tell what type of an animal it was, so I brought it in and wrapped it up to warm it up, and then got on the internet and did some research, and I thought, I think I have a squirrel here. I really didn't think he would survive, but I decided to give it a try. I began him on puppy milk formula. I had to feed him that every 3 hours around the clock. When he was about 30 days old, he opened his eyes. He was beginning to crawl on me. As time went on, I began to realize that he was going to survive, and him and I became friends. It was time to release him, so I bought a squirrel house. He loved it, and that was his home. He bonded with me. He comes in the house when he wants to. We're friends, and sometimes he'll sit on my knee while I watch television. When he's ready to go outside, just like a pet, he'll run to the door.
Amazing. Amazing the relationships we can develop if we could only grasp that nurturing in nature.
This girl was locked outside of their apartment, and the only one who could open the door for her was her roommate's cat. So she sat behind the door and softly knocked on it to let the cat know that she was locked outside and he needed to open the door for her.
Yes, you can do it. You can do it. Just press it down. Go to keep trying.
It appeared that the cat had tried to open the door multiple times but failed, but the girl begged him to keep trying, and after a couple more tries, the cat finally managed to open the door.
Amazing what they can truly understand. See, language and communication and knowing how to do so is very important. You have to be able to let your mind be open enough to allow for the concept that the cat actually understands what you're wanting without having any other communication than the basic sense of nature, and that's an observance. The eyes to see and the ears to hear. Knock, 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 and then see the door handle slightly moving. Amazing. How I deliver to houses without no doggies.
Excuse me.
Versus when doggos are out.
I'm lost. I was told I could find a good boy here. Is that true? Is that true? Oh. I wakened it up. I woke it up. Really? Guys, hi. Oh, no, jeez. And who is it? Is it Charlie?
And what I want to point out here is we all have a natural ability to communicate with these animals, and they are so willing to communicate with us. It's us that has to overcome the communication gap, guys.
Hi, Charlie. There she goes. Hi, girl.
How do we do that? Well, look what he just did. Treats. See, that's one of the first things I learned when I was a little kid, 10 years old, and picked up a paper route. That all these customers had different pets. Some had cats, some had dogs. And it wasn't so much the cats, but the dogs particularly, because they might be out running loose or come to meet me at the door or something like that. Cats might, generally not. But cats, I still had some treats in my pocket for cats if need be. But generally, I would take treats along for all those dogs. And that's a basic communication of that relationship of nurturing in nature. You become a provider for them in multiple senses, and that's the basic foundation of beginning that communication of any relationship. It's that equal consideration.
How you doing?
Is that Marcy?
Hi, Marcy. Hi, girl. What's up with the cowboy girl? Oh, you're always so bashful. Look at you.
You're big and scary. You're a big scary girl. I know you're big and scary.
And that's another thing. When you do this kind of thing and interact with these beings, you find that the personalities are different, and you begin to look and see that in people as well. And they're very characteristic. They will tell you what kind of animals they are, what kind of people they are. This is why I don't listen to people in what they say so much in relations to that earning bread together, that the faith is dead without works. That's those actions. If your actions match your words, then we have something.
Hey, you're big. Oh, thank you. Oh, good to see you. Yeah, good to see you. You'll be good.
Just thought that was interesting. And here's another one when it comes to that psychology in the little ones, the children. Inherently, they're a lot like animals. They have a natural intuition, thought process of reason and logic, and they can do things without emotions. And when they do, they oftentimes seem to be a lot more grown up than they might act. Please pay attention.
When her mom took away her tablet, this 5-year-old girl got really upset, so she decided to run away from home.
So first thing of all, I really don't know that a 5-year-old girl should have a tablet. These devices are dangerous. His metaverse is dangerous.
She packed her bags and she's running away.
Her mom didn't try to stop her because she wanted to teach her a lesson, so she simply said bye.
I said bye.
At first, the girl didn't know where to go, so she just stood in front of their house trying to think of what to do. After a while, she finally left the house, determined to go somewhere else.
She's such a determined
But as she walked up the street, she realized that nobody was calling her bluff, so she decided to go back home.
Oh, I think we've had a change of heart. She's coming back.
When she returned, her mom welcomed her with open arms and offered her a pizza as a peace offering.
You want to be part of this family?
She had a thought process there. And she made her own choices. In making her own choices, you see it took her very little time to come to resolve. It took no arguing with anybody but herself. Amazing if we could learn that from these children. Quit arguing with each other. Learn how to argue with yourself and be self-critical. Is the choice I'm making really that good? I don't know anymore. I thought it was. Maybe it's time to turn around and try again. She acts more adult in her own childish ways than most adults I know today.
You want to come back home? Come on. Come get some pizza. What happened?
When her mom took...
And she even had a smile on her face. So it didn't destroy that little girl. Why do adults let it destroy them? Why do adults let some cantankerous comment from some other idiot bother them so much on this metaverse? Again, this metaverse is dangerous, folks.
I'm going to be aggressive because nobody wants to hear this, because what you want me to say today is actually being a single mother is totally possible. It actually isn't. It was never meant to happen for the human race, number one. Number two, single biggest determiner of whether a mother is a good mother, what do you think it is? This is going to blow your mind when I tell you the answer. Whether they have a supportive partner. The major argument for good dads is actually, can the dad be there for the mom? Because it's like a direct chain is what we see. What you see is that if you've got a father figure, basically, who's supportive to the mother's energy goes towards the children.
This is known as keeping your houses in order. Ladies, you can't do anything in this world as you might think and still end up with the same world we have today if you don't give credence to the man who went through all the efforts to make it comfortable and convenient for you.
But the second that she doesn't have that supportive energy, she collapses, is what happens.
And vice versa. So if you don't support that man in everything he does for his very simple purpose of protecting someone, it's not so much who he's protecting, but that he has somebody supporting him that is wanting him to protect them. You can't then turn around and say, well, you're no good.
And then the kids get starved. And we're not actually supposed to be living in a single family household, so it's supposed to be a lot more support towards mom than just dad. But I'm going with standard societal structure. You are a victim of a society that was never meant to work this way.
The society was meant to work this way, in my opinion. The society as it is dependent upon as many merchants acting, or as many people acting as merchants as possible to drive that commercial system. And in order to get people to act as merchants, they have to destroy the family structure, because without that family structure, that's all they can be. With the family structure, you can be anything you grow up learning to be that is inspired through your spiritual teachings, your cultural stories, your oral histories of those that came before you. Today, we're raising generations that know nothing about the people that came before them, other than some false history text, teaching them about the people that came before in history for all these multifaceted cultures. Nobody's learning about their own culture or the origins, nothing like this, to show that the diversity that we have today is our greatest power. The way that we mix and mingle together is our greatest power. It shows us why we're so able to be adaptive and adept at doing so, is merely by adopting the things that change in the world around us. We can't control that, but we can adopt it and adapt to it through our adeptness. And that's the knowledge. The more knowledge we have, the more we are adept at adapting to those adoptions. Understand the language I'm using, please. Keeping your houses in orders. You must first be able to have the adeptness to be able to adapt the things that you adopt as a matter of changing that you have to accept. If for crying out loud, you're living on a riverbank and the river floods, that's a change that causes you to adopt a new place at minimum of living. That means you have to adapt to that new place. That means you have to be adept enough to make changes from living on the riverbank to living higher on the hill.
I'm going to be aggressive because
And here we have her again.
nice men that are considering themselves nice, often have zero ownership whatsoever. And that is never going to turn a woman on. What I mean by ownership is, you guys can watch this video if you haven't already. I did a whole video called Own People, and in that I explained this whole dynamic with men. It's very important for the forward-moving energy in a masculine body and embodiment to take ownership of the people in their lives. Now, when they do that, it's almost like they put a...
And what she's talking about here in respects to ownership is that net of protection. The people that I have involved in my life, that I have great faith in and love dearly, that I have interactions with in the physical realm here, aside from my own companion, I have several people in the community that I've become friends with over the years and have evidently been instituted in their family. These people are in my ring of protection. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about ownership. I own my obligation to help protect them as I know them from affronts from other people that would be foreign.
Container, and it's a safe container around the people in their lives. This is different than control. So for those of you women that are watching this, feeling yourselves get triggered, I am...
Absolutely. It's not that I want to control anybody. It's that I control myself enough and hold myself up to a high enough standard of morals to be able to protect them by knowing what they need for that protection.
I'm not talking about control. I'm talking about ownership. To really genuinely own something, you have to take it as part of yourself. Now, I know that you all know the asshole, who's like horrible in relationships, but he takes completely perfect care of his mint condition Ferrari, right? That is the degree to which taking something as part of yourself has to happen, but within the context of relationships, for a guy to be a good guy, but also super forward-moving, go-getter type of guy. Nice.
And that's why I say I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. I'm not going to be that super nice guy. I'm going to love in what I believe I'm supposed to love and in the way. And that's why I say if my brother is standing next to me and he's acting a fool, I'm not going to be all nice cupcake and everything. I'm going to let him know he's acting a fucking fool. If we're in the same car, it's my car, and we're going down the road, and you start hanging out the window, fingering people and causing kind of problems, they're going to look back and reflect that on my car and come after my car. What happens when they come after my car when I'm all by myself and there's a gang of people? I don't even know what the fuck happened. You're not going to do that shit around me. I don't care who you are.
I was living in the factory.
And Elon, in my reference, in many respects, is a fucking beast. Fucking beast. Pay attention to what he says here. When you want to impress people and you want to do it for a certain specific reason, you find a way to do so.
In Fremont and the one in Nevada for 3 years straight. That was my primary residence.
You do what it takes. 3 years straight, his primary residence. Right there in the office.
Not kidding, literally. I actually slept in a couch at one point in a tent on the roof. And then, but for a while there, I was just sleeping under my desk, which is out in the open in the factory, and for an important reason. And it was damn uncomfortable sleeping on that floor. And always, when I woke up, I'd smell like metal dust. But actually, I stopped using the couch because there's a little conference room and a couch there. I stopped using the couch. I just slept on the floor under my desk so during shift change, the entire team could see me. And that's important because the team, if they think their leader is off somewhere having a good time, drinking Mai-Tais on a tropical island, which I could definitely have been doing. But the thing is that since the team could see me sleeping on the floor during shift change with nothing, they knew I was there. And that made a huge difference. And then they gave it their all.
That made a huge difference, and then they gave it their all. This is the thing about your actions speak louder than your words. And I tell you my own personal experience in this. I used to have a sales and marketing office, and I got frustrated with my call center one day. We had 14 lines, and I didn't like how much they were kind of goofing off. Sales were down. They weren't doing a good job, and they thought their job was all about fun. And so, of course, being a commission call center, they weren't making a whole lot. Well, that meant I wasn't making a whole lot either. And I don't like working for minimum wage down at McDonald's or Hardee's or Burger King or Wendy's or Taco John's or Taco Bell or anything. So I got this smart idea. I went out and I got a bunch of applications, 14 applications from multiple different places like that. McDonald's, Hardee's, Wendy's, Taco Bell. And I brought them back into the office that night for the night sales crew. And each one of them had an application from each one of those places in front of their phone that night. So before we got started, I said, listen, if we can't put down all the jokery and everything and get down to work and really make yourself some money, then it's my presumption that you really just want minimum wage. So there's a bunch of applications. You decide for yourself if you want to make more than minimum wage by putting your ass to work for yourself so we can all make some money, or you can go flip some fucking burgers for a McPaycheck. You have an opportunity here. Step up to the plate. That's all I'm asking. Be a beast.
I wanted to ask you about this before I forgot. There's a company that's called Apex. It's taking your Teslas and they're giving it a wider base and wider tires and a little bit more advanced suspension.
Sure.
How do you feel about that? Do you work with them?
Another beast move. See, while everybody else would have been sitting there complaining about, oh, he's stealing my product, or he stole my copyright or trademark. This is beast mode. Sure, go ahead. Great.
You cool with those people?
Yeah, I mean, I'm off. Yeah, go ahead.
They're jazzing stuff up with carbon fiber and doing a bunch of interior choices.
Yeah, you could for sure, lighten the car up and improve to tire traction. And
have you seen that company's stuff? What they do?
I don't know specifically, but it's
pretty dope.
Yeah,
They make a pretty dope looking. They take Model S and
Yeah.
they widen it and give it a bunch of carbon fiber. That's it right there.
Cool.
Ooh la la! Look
Yeah,
at
it looks
that.
pretty nice.
Yeah, it does. I wanted to ask you about this.
So yeah, why not? See, don't we recognize that we're not perfect? If we recognize we're not perfect and we put out these products that we think are so great, are we then professing perfection? I think this is beast mentality. That's beast mode mentality. Not letting yourself get all caught up in emotions and stuff because you think something belongs to you. I think he's expressing the mere presence of himself is just the pass through. If you want people to work hard for you, you have to be an example of that working hard. If you want people to make improvements, you have to be able to be an example of making improvements. In making those improvements, you have to be able to expect others to still be able to improve. You can't expect perfection in yourself while expecting everybody else to improve. That's kind of nice, narcissistic. I lost my video here real quick here, and so I'm going to drop out and come right back real quick. Be right back, folks. Okay, let's try this again. Okay. Next one.
All right, sir. Before I take you out of the car, I just got a few questions I got to ask you.
Another beast mode. Another beast mode. This guy, I don't know if he's on something or not. I wouldn't think somebody that's making such clear and concise comments and so it's so steadfast and on point. He comes up with some good ones. And notice it's mostly just questions. He's not making any statements. I don't know if this guy's doing it naturally out of stupidity or if he's on something, but this is perfect.
Do you have any weapons on you right now? You do. Like what?
This right hand and this left hand.
And he said it so seriously. I mean, look at the look on his face. Just blunt and no attitude to it or nothing. This right hand and this left hand.
All right. Now is not the time to make jokes. I'm going to ask you some serious questions and I need some serious answers.
All right.
Do you have anything that can poke me, stab me, or stick me? A knife, pocket knife, anything like that, a needle?
I can't check because my hands are handcuffed.
I can't check because my hands are handcuffed.
As far as you know, do you have anything like that on you?
Not sure.
Not sure. He's sticking with I don't know because I can't check. My hands are handcuffed. Not sure. He's not going to change his answer. This is funny.
Do you have any drugs or alcohol on you as far as you know?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. He's not going to get a yes or no out of this guy. I don't think so.
He drank them all.
He drank them all.
Get inside the building. If I find anything on you, that's going to be another charge.
Oh.
So tell me now.
If I find anything on you when we get inside, that's going to be another charge. Oh, shit. It ain't over, folks. Pay attention.
Now,
will I go to jail?
Once I take you inside, if we find anything on you, we're going to have to give you more charges. Oh, shit. Will I go to jail? I don't know what they picked this guy up for, but I don't know that they can charge him if he keeps acting this way. This is total idiocy, and it's perfect. It's perfect.
I had a friend ask me if I had any advice for mother.
Nick Freitas is one of my favorites. We're gonna I believe I've got one lined up where he's going to talk about the education system as well.
There's raising teenage boys, and yeah, I kind of do. There's a couple things you might want to avoid and some things you might want to encourage. For instance, when your kids were little and they came to mommy to kind of fix their problems, right? They kissed the boo-boo and all that stuff. That was great. And that was good things. It's as they get a little older and they become young men, though, they don't want to feel weak and vulnerable. They want to feel strong and capable. And one of the ways a mother can really foster that and call that out of her son is to do things like ask them to take on tasks for you, ask them to lift the heavy things, ask them to do projects that require physical strength, because your boy wants to feel strong and capable. Also,
see, again, like I said, men in society have a certain purpose, and you have to understand that both from your parental views as mothers and fathers. Same with daughters. As fathers, you have to understand the feminine aspect of coming of age and what their role is in being a woman, in order to be able to help support your mother, your wife, in bringing her up in those feminine ways. You have to be able to communicate both with your wife and your daughter. It comes down to understanding both the feminine and masculine aspects in children, that we both, as moms and dads, have to work together in raising those children. We have to quit sending them to public schools. We have to learn our own role so we can embed that in them. Instead, we have a society of moms and dads, a lot of them being single, and raising children to believe that they can change genders long before they can even drive or travel or operate a car or many other things in life that take a certain discernment. And somehow they think that little children can make such a life-altering discernment and tell mom and dad their views on it. I think that's insanity.
So ask them to do things like check the locks at night, or if the dog's barking, ask them to look out the window to see if everything's okay, because they want to protect. And this gives them an opportunity to not only feel strong and capable, but to actually protect their mother. And in a way, thank you for all the times you protected them.
And in that way, I want to talk about that Boy Scout motto. A Scout is honest, trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Where we go out and do a good turn daily. My concept was just to make sure that every turn I did daily was good. And this came from my perception. Even though I was screaming, "You ain't my daddy," most of my young life, through that, it was my own perception of what a mom and dad should be that I took into my nature and saw that in other people. I saw that woman across the street, no matter whether she was related to me or not, was in some way or another likely a mother, if not at least at bare minimum still a woman that deserved certain respects as to her role in life. Same with other men.
Teach them how to read, failing to teach them how to properly do basic mathematics, failing to teach them how to write, failing to teach them, basic punctuation. At the same time that school is a hotbed for violence, or maybe drugs, or maybe inappropriate sexual activity. I'm sorry, you don't need a PhD or a master's degree in education to recognize that that's probably not the most conducive environment for your child to learn.
And that's what I've been screaming. When we see all these different ideologies coming from these teachers and the other students, because they're all coming from diverse cultured backgrounds, I want to stress again the importance of bringing up our own children with our own spirituality. And that's what Nick is talking about, homeschooling and pulling your children out of those public education encampments that are indoctrinating them into this matrix of insanity.
Their students going to a school which is failing to teach them how to read, failing to teach them how to properly do basic mathematics, failing to teach them how to write, failing to teach them, basic punctuation. At the same time that school is a hotbed for violence or maybe drugs or maybe inappropriate sexual activity. I'm sorry, you don't need a PhD or a master's degree in education to recognize that that's probably not the most conducive environment for your child to learn. But they want to pretend that, well, if you don't have those degrees, how could you possibly know? I don't know because I'm not an idiot. How about that? In fact, here's a better question. You have all of those degrees, and that's the system you created. Why should I trust you as the resident subject matter expert when the solutions that you have offered are absolutely failing for my child?
And so it goes to the concept, you certainly wouldn't have, say, an 18-year-old as a mom and dad. You wouldn't hire an 8-year-old to babysit a 14-year-old. That just goes against the concept of reality of reason and logic. The same thing, you wouldn't allow a 5-year-old to make adult decisions when they're not an adult. Okay? Same thing. You wouldn't let an 8-year-old make decisions of responsibility and authority for a 14-year-old. Same thing is, I don't believe we should have these 22, 23, 24-year-old young men and women trying to tell full-grown moms, dads, and grandparents what the law is, when those people may and most likely have a greater experience with law than the guy that just came up 6 months out of a police academy. This is ridiculous. And when it comes to those personal relationships, you got to have some kind of humor.
I can't believe this crap. 22 years of marriage, 3 kids, 2 combat deployments, and my wife sits down today and tells me she doesn't love me anymore.
That's not what I said.
What'd you say?
I said I think it's time to shave the beard.
It's the same damn thing. I said it's time to shave the beard.
Same damn thing.
I just had to show that one. Everybody's got that comedy side. And though he might seem real serious on things, that's one of the reasons I like this guy. He puts out some comedic commentary. And so it shows me he does have a comedic side to him. I love it. Michael Knowles.
Everyone around the table was supposed to say how they met their partner. So they go around Tinder, Zap, or whatever. And I said, my wife and I met. We don't remember. It was either homeroom in middle school or district orchestra in elementary school. The girls were dead silent, just staring at me slack-jawed. I said, what? Okay, you're not a very romantic crowd here, huh? And they said, oh, I assumed you were kidding. They couldn't believe that somebody would marry his high school sweetheart like that.
And this goes back to that nurturing nature. See, I think we're getting far away from it, where we used to have people growing up, it seems like he's pointing out, that grew up with high school sweethearts, meaning they had some kind of extended relationship through high school where they ended up marrying after high school. So they'd already developed a relationship. Today we have more of this, a plethora of people coming out of high school that haven't developed relationships because they haven't learned. They've been fighting and arguing with all these different ideologies, and it's just getting worse and worse. So we have young men and women coming out of high school that have no intention of developing a relationship unless it happens in the spur of the moment, because in the meantime, they're just going to go out and hole around, and they're going to find somebody that's a perfect match for them. They don't want to put in any effort and develop a relationship that takes the challenge of true questions and true adaptations to people that aren't exactly alike. This is the process of love, getting to know each other. And so when we develop these relationships, again, whether it's my companion or other people in this community, there's a level of love, and that's getting to know each other. And each one of them is going to be different. One may be agape love. One may be a different kind of love. There's 4 or 5 different kinds of loves according to the scriptures. And it's a matter of developing those types of relationships and knowing those bounds. Today, we don't have any of those bounds in any of those kinds of loves, and everybody's getting confused and thinking you can be a man when you were born a woman and be a woman when you're born a man and somehow love in that capacity, and that's wrong. I think you've been delusioned, in my opinion, serious opinion.
That wasn't even a possibility. 40 years ago, that would be the norm. Think about how radically the culture has changed. And then
Exactly. Think about how radically the culture has changed. Back in my day in high school, when this kind of thing was still happening. We also had kids coming to school that lived in the urban areas out in the farm or in the rural areas out on the farms and stuff that did their own little thing out there that was a little bit different social environment. And so they were raised up hunting. And they would drive their trucks and cars with their rifles and shotguns in the back windows. There used to be a time when many students brought weapons to school. They just didn't carry them inside the doors under cover with an intent to shoot other people. There's a different moral aspect, a different way of acting morally. And even the younger men that did those hunting routines stood by that moral compass. They were being taught that moral compass, that that gun was for a certain use. It wasn't meant to go in and slaughter your students, your fellow students. It was meant for hunting, and it didn't matter where they took it. That's all they used it for. Use, folks. Use.
Then what did they do? They all said, oh. So there's this longing, especially among young women, for some semblance of traditional normal life. They know it's a good thing. They're longing for that. Everyone around the table was.
But they're denying it, saying it's too hard to find it. No, it's not. You're just not being taught how to find it. And that's by finding it in yourself to learn how to adapt to the changes. We're not meant to grow up in this relationship and learn how to change our partner. We're supposed to learn how to change and adapt to them and help them and ourselves learn how to grow. That's what the changes are truly about, is the growth.
How historically accurate are the four Gospels? There are a lot of good, helpful books that address the historical accuracy.
And I put this one in here because I just talked about developing relationships. The process of love for me is getting to know each other. That's learning about each other. And it's not a one-time thing where I can just make a preemptive conclusion about somebody because the way they approach me or something. I have to be able to be good with being able to approach them again and see if there's a different dynamic. Maybe it was just a bad occurrence, a bad incident. They had bad events going on. I don't know. I have to give them that opportunity because I would like that opportunity myself in case somebody misinterpreted my actions. So when it comes to the scriptures, it's about the accuracy and what is true on the foundation. You can hear many stories about people, but the foundation of those stories may not be true, and you may not find that out. But if you meet them in person, you may find out that those the foundation of those stories isn't true, and that's why you have to be open. See, the scriptures aren't a matter of somebody's story. It's not about somebody. It's about all of us. It's a message that we can all learn from by finding the foundational truths that aren't up for dispute.
Accuracy and reliability of the four Gospels in the New Testament. One of the more recent books that I found really helped.
In other words, even though there may be some lies in there, there's a foundational truth that exists that needs to be seen first and foremost.
Is by Peter J. Williams, Warden of Tyndall House at Cambridge. Several years ago, he published a short, easy-to-read book titled Can We Trust the Gospels? And in this book, he covers a lot of familiar terrain, citing non-Christian testimony to Jesus from the earliest times, as well as how remarkably careful the gospel texts have been transmitted right down through the centuries. But to me, the most interesting chapter was chapter 3, where Williams gives a barrage of details that the gospel authors got right, using charts, tables, catalogues, geographical references such as roads and travel routes, names of people from the regions, even botanical and financial terminology, as well as Jewishness and other customs. Williams admits that none of this makes the Gospels true, but it does show that any theological intent or literary artistry contained in the four Gospels does not compromise their historical accuracy.
And so again, when we're talking about the oral histories and stuff and the culture, that's why they look at the accuracy of these scriptures. Because the oral history can continue, and you can change the names and places, but the foundation of the story remains the same. And that's the moral concepts that it pervades in those scriptures. It sets out guidelines in which we can do things. Procedures, Matthew 18, verses 15 through 20. that if you have an ought against your brother, you're supposed to go to him in private. If he denies you, you go get a second witness. If he denies you again, you take it to the public forum. That's a process. It's a moral compass. That's all it is. It doesn't matter who the story is about. It's the story itself and how it relates to a process in your life to grow. The knowledge. That is the manna, the knowledge.
My name is Brandon Herrera. I'm a licensed 0702 FFL firearm manufacturer, and I am deeply opposed to the unconstitutional anti-gun measure being forced down the throats of law-abiding American citizens today. They know this is useless garbage that doesn't actually solve anything. To put these uninformed opinions above the Constitution is leading to some pissed off constituents, and it
should. It's leading to some pissed off constituents, putting their opinion above the above the Constitution, just like that judge over in New York, putting her opinion above the Constitution, and the courts, saying that the court was hers and the Constitution wouldn't be spoken of in her court. So when it comes to all this bullshit and trying to regulate things, again, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 says Congress shall make rules for the government. They're not supposed to extend beyond that.
should. Speaking of pissed off constituents, there's a pile of almost 200,000 petitions sitting outside this chamber that you guys won't allow in. These petitions.
So again, when you think your vote counts in those electoral colleges, do you think those petitions count? Or does it count that you just assert with impunity the Second Amendment? Again, I say, assert with impunity the Second Amendment. And to seal it tight the third time, assert with impunity the Second Amendment. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Petitions right here. Almost 200,000 of your voters begging you to listen to them. Try not to trip over them on the way out. My name is Brandon Herrera.
Try not to trip on them on the way out. Be sure you remember also that those are the people you're committing treason against, as the very officials that are supposed to accept those petitions. As a matter of, again, that First Amendment, the right to redress the government for grievances. How dare you?
This man just melted everyone's brain in that room.
Do you have to be Chinese to wear this?
You don't have to. Anybody can wear.
What prompted you to make that video?
I made that video to prove anti-white ivory tower professors like the one in your studio wrong. This video and the others that I've made like it with Native Americans, with Mexicans, with the Chinese you just watched are irrefutable evidence that people like that professor are exactly wrong on cultural appropriation. I've seen people get offended by braids and say braids are a black people thing and white people can't wear braids. It's called a Dutch braid. It was from back in Nordic times, old Nordic times, with white people, with Vikings would wear braids, yet people want to come and claim that it's some part of their culture now. No, you can't claim that something is just a part of your culture either. It's for people to share and celebrate and use so you can actually have a society that is cohesive and works together as a melting pot, not all these different groups that can't work together because everyone's so offended. The only people who are actually offended by cultural appropriation don't really have anything else of meaning going on in their lives, it seems.
And I believe that as well. Like I've been speaking about adopting and cultural oral histories and stuff. That's how society adapts to the changes. Even the natives here on American soil did some adopting and adapting of the ways and cultures of quote the white man, and vice versa. Where do you think we got our federal government from? We got the federal government from the Federation of the Five Tribes in Southeast America.
Where did you go to medical school?
I did not go to medical school.
I'm sorry.
I
I did not go to medical school. That's what I thought. Why do you think you or anyone else at Twitter had the medical expertise to censor a doctor's expert opinion?
Our policies regarding COVID were designed to protect individuals. We were seeing
You guys censored Harvard-educated doctors, Stanford-educated doctors, doctors that are educated in the best places in the world, and you silenced those voices.
The doctors that are supposed to be looking out for their clients, their constituents, that were trying to tell their constituents about this stuff and were being silenced by this censorship, that's protecting individuals. See, that's not protecting individuals. She straight up caught this woman in a lie. How can you profess that you're protecting individuals by denying them the medical advice from those licensed in the medical society by using your fucking power of authority to say, no, you can't tell the people that? People bought out and continue to lie.
The U.S. government ever contact you or anyone at Twitter to pressure Twitter to moderate or censor certain tweets? Yes or no?
we received legal demands to remove content from the
We received legal demands to remove content from the platform. So that was a conspiracy. And she's saying that they received legal demands. I want to keep my job. So I'm going to go with their legal demands that obviously violate international law. Because I certainly wouldn't want somebody else telling me that I had to deny my child medical advice and do what they said simply because they hold their opinion above everybody else and they're not even medically licensed.
platform from the U.S. government and governments all around the world.
Thank God for Matt Taibbi. Thank God for Elon Musk for allowing to show us in the world that Twitter was basically a subsidiary of the FBI.
A subsidiary of the FBI making legal demands where they have no right to make legal demands. They're making legal demands to deny medical advice. There is no one in the world that has the authority to do so. Again, these are not just people that somehow think they're magically licensed to perform medicine or stuff. These are people that run the medical industry.
Lawyer's reaction.
This guy thinks I'm stealing.
They seen you on camera.
See me on camera doing what?
They watch you on camera.
Bring up the footage.
They're telling me right now that you
Bring
have
up
items
the
on you.
footage.
They're telling me right now you have items.
Bring up the footage.
There's a legal concept known as shopkeeper's privilege, which says that a shop has the right to detain you if they reasonably believe that you've stolen an item in their store, and they can only detain you for a reasonable period of time.
And so what's happening here is somebody's placing false evidence into a record when there's already a record there that will prove the innocence, and they're denying that. Pay attention to how this works.
In order to allow them to investigate. Now, in applying this law to this video, you can see that this young lady emphatically denied stealing an item. In fact, she told the security guard, "Let's go and check the tape." Now, this
is when the shopkeeper has the duty to do the investigation because the evidence is already there.
is when the shop's duty to investigate kicks in, because she's telling them, "Let's go and see," by the security guard refusing her request to go and watch this tape together, and instead insisting on patting her down or having her empty out her pockets. They're no longer being protected by shopkeeper's privilege. It means that this shop is liable.
Because instead of fulfilling his duty in good faith to do the investigation, he denied the investigation and went further to subject them to forced labor. That's a 20-year sentence. Using the law, criminal civil, or administrative for a purpose of which it's not intended. And by obscuring that through denying the investigation, you are now going on your feelers, which is not what the law wasn't used. The use of the law was intended for. You can no longer keep using this to protect your emotions, folks. Oops, wrong one.
These two cops kept returning to the same place every night, stopping every black person on the street until this guy decided he had enough and gave them a piece of his mind.
You just messing with every random black person y'all see? Light out my face. Dumb bitch. That's fucking illegal. You're not supposed to block my view. I'm the press.
What's that?
Fuck you, bitch. The fuck on, bitch. Take the fuck off.
Have a nice night.
Fuck you too, bitch.
Okay, have a nice night.
Fuck you, shine it again. This goofy flashlight looking motherfucker.
Have a nice night, all right?
You too. Get the fuck on. Yo, this is what your taxpayer dollars are paying for. What's your name? Name and badge number. Name and badge numbers. What are they? And what's your name and badge number? Name and badge number.
All right, just step over here.
Name and badge number. Name and badge number. I'm gonna find out. I'll find.
See his body language, always looking to his partner. See, these guys are weak. Even together, they're fucking weak. Weak. This guy here, I don't know who he is. This is from Inspector Darkmind. He does a lot of shorts like this from other auditors and stuff. But this guy is tenacious. I love it.
File it FOIA. You want me to do that, or are you just gonna give it to me? What is it? What is it?
Peterson, 24616. Have a nice
All right.
night, sir.
These two cops kept returning to the same place every night, stopping every black person on the street until this guy decided he had enough and gave them a piece of his mind.
You're just messing with every.
See, this is a guy that's been watching this and sees it on a regular, so he got involved. Like I said, tenacious. And with that, folks, we have come to the end of our stream tonight. I want to thank everybody again for your support. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And remember, folks, the insanity out there, most of it is on you. Most of it is on you. You've been giving everything up as far as your responsibilities and obligations for conveniences and comforts. And it's not until you start learning about how to take on those responsibilities and obligations more so yourself again that you will find solutions. If you want to find a solution to your child being such a heathen, maybe bring him home like Nick Frieda says and start homeschooling them. Bringing them up in the spiritual nature. A child raised up in the Word of God shall not waver. That's why they're wavering. They have no fear of God. They have no love of God. They have none of that. It's never been instilled in them. And that's truly, again, not that there's this quote God that you can define, but the message behind the behavior, your actions speaking louder than words, and using a moral compass to go forth in life to do so. Whether you're a man or a woman, a boy or a girl, both mom and dad having concerted effort together, combined in raising those children, instead of letting this comfort and convenience system destroy your family, because that's what you're doing. You're destroying your own family. And again, remember, even if you think you got a nice family and you're sitting there in front of some boob tube, munching down all the processed foods and drinking the poison drink, and you hear the lights and sirens and you look out and you see them a couple blocks down the street, the next night you go back to doing the same damn thing, not getting involved with your neighbor and showing compassion and concern. When do you think they're going to come knocking at your door? You think you're just going to skip your door because you have a good family? It's not the way it works. If you've got a good family, they find you, they're probably going to do everything they can to destroy you. Even the ones that have good families, they're destroying their own families. The ones that think they have power. For crying out loud, Cuyahoga County, they have a nice little mob family over there, Italian mob family, the O'Malleys running that system, family court system, juvenile courts, and the county prosecutor, all from the O'Malleys. You really want to help bring up a smarter, more intellectual, adept generation, then we have to start learning about this stuff ourselves, because our people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. We pay for our father's sins. You have to start becoming active some point or another. That is, if you really care. Otherwise, you're going to get caught up in all the insanity, and you're going to have this one thinkable source, the self-centeredness of yourself, and ain't nobody going to stand up for you. Except people in your own ranks that they're looking out for themselves too, and they're only going to stand up to a certain point. So think about this stuff, folks, and remember, I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. Let's say I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you, and have a good night. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye now.